Okay, so we're going to try to do something a little different with this video. I've been wanting to make videos about lessons I've learned in employing the different things that I've talked about in previous videos. I've wanted to do updates, and I think it's really important to have these types of videos happen in one take where it's super informal and you can just kind of get a sense of how these realizations and thoughts have had an impact on my life. So in this one, we're going to start with the feeling of not being good enough. A little while ago, I made a video where I've come to the realization that I need to say goodbye to that feeling. And I've been wanting to make a follow-up video on it, but I really wanted to take time to think about how that decision has impacted me, how I've felt about it since, and what lessons I've taken away from it. And I've come up with 3. So the first lesson or realization that I've made from this is that I find it easier to be social. In the past, whenever I would be in new or uncomfortable social situations, it was very easy for me to kind of alienate myself and say, none of these people want to talk to me, X, Y, and Z, that whole thing. But since I've said goodbye to this feeling that I'm not good enough, it's freed my brain up to think more about, well, how can I add myself to this conversation, to actually be present and listen to the conversation and not be so distracted by my own thoughts. So it's been really helpful for me in that way. And I'm really happy with that. Another thing that I've learned is that it's also easier for me to, I guess, slack off or not be as productive, which was really surprising to me. I realized that being hard on myself and employing negative self-talk has been a driving motivator for a lot of my life. I would kind of go into these dips where, I would not think much of myself. I would tell myself that I'm not good enough, and I would feel bad about that for a while. And then after a while, I would get some burst of motivation to try to rebel against that. And that's when I would be my most productive. And that's when I would make the most progress I've had in life. And that worked for me in a very counterproductive way. I wouldn't feel great about it at any point, but the net result was effective. So doing away with this feeling of not being good enough, it's very easy to just kind of let myself off the hook in a lot of ways. And it has led to diminished productivity overall. And paradoxically, I'm happy with the ability to not be hard on myself about that, but it has generated this want to find a way to be more productive in a more positive sense. And that's kind of what led to the video about having ambitions versus being ambitious. A lot of my thoughts lately have been, how can I replace this negative reinforcement with something more positive that would make me feel better while also being productive? So I have some thoughts on that, but that'll be a future video. And the third lesson, and the most interesting thing, is that I've come to realize that my brain, and perhaps everyone's brain, I don't know, at least for me, my brain is an unbiased machine. And what I mean by that is I was really concerned about how saying goodbye to that feeling would go for me, if I would even be successful. If a week later, would it just come back? And surprisingly, it has come back here and there, but it's been infinitely more easy to combat. Surprisingly so. And that to me was a realization in and of itself. When I entertained these thoughts, when I really, accepted them and just felt bad about them, my brain would really lean into this idea that I wasn't good enough. But now that I have consciously told myself that I'm saying goodbye to that feeling, and I reinforce that the times it does come up, my brain is not nearly as invested in that idea as I thought. I expected there to be these ongoing, consistent battles where I would have to just basically stare at a wall and grapple with my brain about this idea. And I was prepared to take up that fight. But my brain has just kind of been like, okay, well, all right, I'm just going to start thinking about this other thing. I'm going to start talking about my mind would just go off on a whole bunch of other different topics. And it was really surprising to see how detached my brain was from this feeling, because I've just had this visualization in my head for so long that my brain was very committed. It had a high amount of conviction to this idea that I just was not good enough. And that's gotten me thinking, like, well, what else is my brain not as attached about that I once thought? How programmable is my brain? Like, I know and read a lot about concepts of neuroplasticity and things like that, but it was just really interesting to get this feeling that, like, the depression I've grappled with, the negative self-talk that I grapple with, is not as entrenched and, believable as I once thought. And I do plan on making a video specifically about that as well. I want to do some more research, find different quotes, and just better educate myself on it so I can kind of have a more concrete thing to say about it. So I'm looking forward to that. But yeah, overall, the decision to say goodbye to the feeling of not being good enough has been very much a positive thing for me. I'm very happy to have done so. I do feel that it has stuck, and I do feel that it will continue to stick. And I do feel my mindset and my approach to different things and my reaction to different things has changed considerably, having made that decision. But I do think I need to find a way to replace that negative reinforcement for productivity with something positive. And I want to further explore the idea that my brain is not as biased as I once thought. And I also appreciate that I feel better and more comfortable in social situations, and that I'm feeling more confident about myself as a person. That to me is the biggest thing. But yeah, those are the lessons I've learned from saying goodbye to the feeling of not being good enough. Going forward, we'll do more videos like this. I see a world where I do create videos. I don't even really know how to categorize it, but like the normal videos that I make about a topic, I do see myself sticking to those on a weekly basis, and I might do one take things like this in addition to those, like another day of the week or something like that. Because I don't want this channel to be like, just serving platitudes where someone's like, oh yeah, I feel a certain burst of motivation. I want people to see that these realizations can have an impact. I want someone to see my experiences and be able to draw inferences to their own experiences and have something to compare, contrast with, and to talk about. I very much see this as a journey. And I hope videos like this offer some insight to how that journey is progressing. And I hope you join me on it. But yeah, you probably can hear my cat. If not, my name is Albert. That's Rowboat. This has been On to Something, and I'll catch you in the next video. Take it easy.